In the Vedic scriptures, there's a nice example given. And the example given is that of a caterpillar. Now the caterpillar is always thinking of the butterfly. And the caterpillar is always thinking of the butterfly, and it gets transformed into a butterfly in this very life. You know that? The caterpillar is always thinking of the butterfly. And in this very life, the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. So similarly, using that same line of argument, if you think about Krishna, if you think of Krishna, then in this very life you can be transformed. That is important to understand. So Krishna is emphasizing the importance of thinking about him. Now, all along in the Bhagavad Gita we see that Krishna keeps describing his different characteristics. You know, like yesterday in the 7th chapter, we had discussed some ways by which you can remember the Supreme. Krishna said he's a taste of water. He's the light of the sun. So in this chapter, Krishna gives us some more indications regarding his inconceivable powers and his characteristics. For example, Krishna says, meditate on the Supreme Person as one who knows everything. So you must understand that God knows everything. You cannot think that God doesn't know anything, isn't it? You must understand that God knows everything. Therefore He is God. You and I may know what is about ourselves, but Krishna knows about everyone. So that's one way of meditating on the Lord, as one who knows everything. Then, as one who is the oldest. Sometimes people say, if everything is created by God, who created God? Isn't it? Don't they say that? If everything is created by God, then who created God? So Brahmaji has already responded to that question in the Brahma Samhita. Brahmaji says that Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karna Karnam. That thou, He is the cause of all causes. There's nobody the cause of His existence. You understand? So Krishna is saying the same point in a different way. He's saying He is the oldest. Because there's nobody who can be considered the cause of His existence, you can conclude that He is the oldest. He is the supreme controller. Not a blade of grass can move without Krishna's permission. Who's smaller than the smallest? You have an ant, but Krishna is also in the heart of the ant. You know that? You may have the smallest molecule. Krishna is inside the atom also. So He is smaller than the smallest. Who is the maintainer of everything? After all, to just conclude that there is no God is simply a hallucination. There must be somebody who is making sure that the sun rises every day at the right time, the sun sets, the air is there. Imagine all of a sudden, if there was no air to breathe, could you and I survive? Have you ever read that in some part of the world, all of a sudden, all the air disappeared from supply? Or in Australia, the sun did not rise yesterday, and in America, it rose. No. You hear everything's working perfectly. So when everything is working perfectly, you should know that there's somebody who's in control and who's beyond all material conception. You cannot understand God with your limited senses. I'll just give you a very small story to illustrate this point, that on one occasion, there was a cobbler and a Brahmin, both of whom had requested the great sage Narada Muni to find out as to how long will they have to suffer in the material world. So the Lord replied to the question of these two individuals, but then He told Narada Muni to tell them that you can tell the cobbler that he will go back to Godhead in this life, but you can tell the Brahmin that he will have to take many, many births. And also, if they want to know what was I doing when you spoke to me, tell them that I was passing an elephant through the eye of a needle. Now, when the Brahmin heard that the Lord was passing an elephant through the eye of a needle, he couldn't believe it. He said, how can you pass an elephant through the eye of a needle? But when the cobbler, who had complete faith in the unlimited potencies of the Lord, heard this, he rejoiced and he was very, very happy. So the point is that we have to understand that the Lord is inconceivable. If God can put a huge banyan tree in a small seed, if your and my body, which may be so big today, is a result of a small pea, then certainly the Lord can do everything that's inconceivable. So we cannot try and understand God through our material senses. And He's always a person and luminous like the sun. He's transcendental and beyond this material nature. So Krishna has once again established that He's beyond this material nature.